everybody. I'm Will Miles from Reading Reaction. It's been a little while since we've had an article up at the site. Also been a little while since we've had one of these YouTube videos. And there's a reason for that. We've been working behind the scenes. Nick Knudsen and I have both been working behind the scenes for a preseason Florida Gator magazine. And it's going to be a digital magazine. It's going to be more than 100 pages specific to Florida Gators. It's going to cover things from, film and concepts for the Billy Napier offense and the Patrick Toney defense, to recruiting, to, our predictions for the SEC, our predictions for Florida, our predictions for Florida potential all SEC players, and sort of looking back at what Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer did in their first years and all sorts of different things. So there's going to be really sort of comprehensive coverage of Florida, as preparing you for the season, getting you ready. We hope everybody's excited about it. If you're interested, you can go over to www.readingreaction.com/mag. That's readingreaction.com/MAG. There, you'll be prompted to put in your email. Put in your email. That'll let us know you're interested. And when this comes out right before Memorial Day, we'll send you an email with a coupon for 20% off the magazine overall. We're really excited about it. We think it's going to be a good product. We think it's going to teach people about Florida. We think it's going to get you ready for the season. And more than anything, I used to buy those preview magazines. You get Lindy's magazine. It's a great magazine. You get Phil Steele's magazine. It's a great magazine. You flip through and there's like a page or two on Florida. Right. And it's exciting. You get to read what other coaches think. You get to read about all the returning players and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not really all that comprehensive about that particular team. It's comprehensive about college football. We wanted to do something that was comprehensive for Florida. We think we've done that. And, we hope you'll agree, and we hope you'll purchase it and help support us here. We really appreciate everybody's support, not just with the magazine, not just with reading, but also over at Patreon. You go to patreon.com/readingreaction. You can help support us there, get extra episodes of Stand Up and Holler, get extra content from me from time to time. And so, more than anything, be part of the community that's helping to take alternative media like Reading Reaction and prompting it up there. So we do have an article this week, though. So, the article this week titled, "Does NIL make 3-star quarterbacks more valuable than before?" When The Athletic released an article earlier this offseason that detailed an $8 million NIL deal for a particular recruit, it made people in the college football industry pause. That's a lot of money to fly around for a recruit, even in a sport as flush with cash as college football. What we've seen since then is an arms race of sorts, as various collectives and boosters put together war chests to help their schools succeed in this new NIL world. We've seen this at Florida as well, both with the formation of the Gator Collective and then the formation of the Gator Guard. The latter, led by Hugh Hathcock and focused on getting big-time booster money involved, likely positions the Gators well for the upcoming recruiting battles that are on the way. But the specter of all this money leads to another question. How do you make sure you spend it wisely? After all, there are going to be trade-offs now. It didn't cost anything, allegedly, to sign 7 5-star recruits in the past. But if each of them requires an $8 million deal, there's going to be a cap to what any one program is able to do. Ostensibly, this might help level the playing field on the recruiting front, regardless of what Nick Saban is saying. But if there's essentially a cap to what any one program's collective is able to dole out, then the successful programs are going to be those who figure out how to optimize the application of NIL dollars to maximize talent. So the question then is this: how do you best optimize your dollars to build a winner in this era? Most valuable. Nobody doubts that the quarterback is the most valuable player on the field. We've seen it over and over again that teams with elite quarterbacks are able to cover holes that poor or average quarterback play just cannot. That can certainly be offset with talent elsewhere, as we saw last year with Georgia. Bulldog quarterback Stetson Bennett's stats looked good last year, but he was not an elite quarterback. Yet Georgia was able to finish as the SEC runner-up despite that, because the defense was so ferocious that he didn't need to be. But that works both ways as well. The 2010 Auburn Tigers won the national championship with the 53rd ranked defense in points per game, 24.1. That mirrors the Tigers' finish in yards per play allowed against FBS opponents that year, where they finished 47th. What that says is that Auburn was an average defense, but that having Cam Newton under center can offset that. The NFL clearly understands this concept. If you look at the highest paid 10 players and their average salaries by position, quarterbacks make by far the most money. In fact, at $36.4 million on average, the only position that makes more than 54% of that total is edge rushers, $21.7 million. What this suggests is that an elite quarterback recruit is almost 2 times as valuable as an elite edge rusher. But more than that, what this suggests is that the fall off is significant when we're talking about tight ends, running backs, guards, and even right tackles. Those players just don't have the same value as the edge rushers, wide receivers, left tackles, or interior defensive linemen. I think this is a good starting point for valuation of elite recruits. If you can get an elite left tackle and an elite interior defensive lineman for less than an elite quarterback, then it might be worth it. But if the NIL price for each is essentially the same for a quarterback, then you're better off overspending a little bit for the quarterback. Application to recruiting and transfers. None of this is neurosurgery. Everybody knows that quarterbacks are more important than defensive linemen when it comes to winning. The nuance is in then applying the recruiting rankings to understand how important each entity is to winning, thus allowing us to put a valuation on each recruit. For example, we know that recruiting rankings correlate with winning. We see that year after year, especially in the SEC. But one thing that I haven't seen is figuring out how much of that winning is attributable to a particular position. For instance, if we look at how 24/7 Sports builds its recruiting rankings, it values Walter Nolan, a defensive tackle and the number 2 player nationally, at 29.98 points, but values Connor Wegman in the same class, a quarterback and the number 22 player in the country, at 24.84 points. That 5 points might not seem like much, but it suggests that the rankings say that Wegman is going to be less important to winning for the Aggies than Nolan. This actually makes sense for most positions, and we can see that in the NFL valuations. Because there's more of a drop-off in quarterback to edge rusher, $14.7 million, than from quarterback to center. Essentially what it's saying is that you want elite talent at each of those positions, but they're all going to contribute roughly equally to winning, except for quarterback. Because I think what this says is that the quarterback position contributes disproportionately, which means that there should be more emphasis on bringing in a truly elite signal caller, even if it means sacrificing elsewhere. The NFL edge. Joe Burrow has an average annual salary of $9 million. That's a far cry from the $36 million dedicated to a top 10 quarterback, which means that Cincinnati is getting excess value from the quarterback position. Essentially, the Bengals can spend elsewhere because they don't have to pay Burrow that $27 million differential. In a league with a spending cap, that's a really big deal. Compare that to the Packers' Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has no doubt earned his money, but he's going to make $42 million in 2022, $59.5 million in 2023, and $49.3 million in 2024. Because of cap gymnastics, Rodgers' deal only cost the Packers $28.5 million against the cap in 2022. But that means that Green Bay still has a $19.5 million disadvantage to Cincinnati. So why am I bringing this up? Well, the same principle may end up applying in college football. The $8 million NIL deal that was reported in The Athletic was not a signing bonus. Instead, it was a contract that incentivized a player to stay at the school for 3 years to maximize earnings. The NIL deal stayed with the entity giving out the contract, meaning the transfer portal wouldn't be able to be used to negotiate more funds. So imagine if you were a savvy coaching staff. What if you could find a 3-star quarterback who you were sure was going to be a star? For whatever reason, that player was undervalued by other programs, but the upside was that the player could turn into a star. And let's say your collective could structure a contract similar to the one proposed in The Athletic, but that it had a significantly lower overall dollar amount. You'd now have the exact advantage that the Bengals have over the Packers. Essentially, you would have freed up money that normally you'd have to allocate towards an elite quarterback, and instead would be able to allocate that money to multiple edge rushers, wide receivers, and left tackles. The converse is also true. Let's say your collective executed the $8 million NIL deal as proposed in The Athletic. That 5-star quarterback came your way, but he just wasn't either very good or wasn't good enough to send your program over the top. In the meantime, all the other elite players went to other schools who didn't lock up all of their collective dollars into a quarterback. Real life examples. You don't have to look too far to see some real life examples. Bo Nix went to Auburn as the 5-star savior. He was the 33rd ranked player nationally in the 2019 class and had offers from Alabama, Clemson, and Florida. He ran a 4.60 40-yard dash and could make every throw. But upon closer inspection, there were some areas of concern when you looked at his high school stats I like to focus on. His senior year of high school, he only completed 59.7% of his throws for an average of 8.5 yards per attempt. Overall in high school, he had a completion percentage of 56.2 and also averaged 8.5 yards per attempt. Those aren't great numbers. For frame of reference, Felipe Franks completed 58.9% of his throws his senior year, but averaged 12 yards per attempt. Joe Burrow completed 72.3% of his throws and averaged 12.8 yards per attempt. Not surprisingly, and this isn't revisionist history, I predicted Nix would struggle back in 2019. Nix has been a below average quarterback at Auburn, posting a completion percentage of 59.4% and averaging 6.9 yards per completion. His career quarterback rating of 126.2 is lower than Treon Harris, 127.1. Maybe Nix will excel at Oregon this year in a different scheme, but the stats don't suggest a breakout is coming. That leads me to the evaluation of five-star Tennessee commit Nico Iamoleava. Iamoleava has been the subject of much conjecture, as it's been rumored that he is the player to whom the $8 million deal was proposed. I'm not sure if that's true, but I have no doubt that he has some sort of NIL deal set up, as he should. That's not really what I'm interested in, other than if Ayamaliva is really is being compensated at that level. And if it turns out he isn't as good as the projections say he will be, then that's a problem for Tennessee. Greg Bivens' 24/7 sports evaluation of Ayamaliva is glowing. Quote, he has made huge strides over the last year in terms of his pocket feel, ability to throw on time and anticipate. He always had a big arm, but can now change speeds, go through progressions, and make accurate touch throws down the field look easy. He has exceptional escapability and is just as dangerous outside the pocket as he is throwing in it. Biggins has Ayamaliva projected as a first-round NFL draft pick. That's somebody you would think Florida would be scared of. But now let's look at the stats for Ayamaliva that I cited above for Nix. Max Preps has him at 60.3% completions in 2020 and then 59.6% in 2021. Not exactly the advancement in accuracy that was touted in the evaluation. He averaged 8.3 yards per attempt in 2020 and then 8.25 in 2021. Again, not exactly the step forward I was looking for. For sure, Ayamaliva still has his entire senior year to improve. Anthony Richardson took a huge step between his junior and senior year in high school. But what I see right now in these stats is a player with extreme physical gifts who hasn't been able to harness those gifts into the productivity I want to see statistically. Compare that to Max Brown, the much less regarded quarterback that Billy Napier signed late in the 2022 class. Brown completed 72.7% of his throws in 2020 and then 71.1% in 2021. So he's highly accurate. On those throws, he averaged 13.8 yards per attempt in 2020 and 11.7 yards per attempt in 2021. This again suggests that his accuracy wasn't just on dinks and dunks, though in my evaluation of Brown earlier this year, I did suggest the film suggests he's a bit of a developmental project. Takeaway. Let's look 3 years down the road. Ayamaliva has been good but not great for the Vols, even though he started from day one. Brown is starting to fulfill that statistical promise on the field after Anthony Richardson helped keep the Gators respectable and winning over the Vols for the past 2 seasons. But perhaps more importantly, Florida collectives were able to dole out NIL deals to players like Cormani McClain, Malik Bryant, Peyton Kirkland, and a whole host of elite non-quarterback players who didn't require the same type of huge NIL deal that an elite quarterback demands. In that scenario, Florida is a more complete team, and Brown is outplaying the 5-star quarterback recruit. Look, I think stars matter about as much as anyone out there, but as significant money is getting attached to those stars through NIL, the calculation is going to change. Just like Joe Burrow is probably worth more on a per dollar basis than Aaron Rodgers, even if Rodgers is better, hitting on a 3-star quarterback like Brown is going to be worth its weight in gold for overall roster construction. That is a high variance strategy. The odds that Ayamaliva is elite are much higher than the odds that Brown will be. But I have to be honest that I don't see in the statistical profile a whole lot of evidence that Ayamaliva is going to be a difference maker when he gets to Knoxville. Tim Tebow completed 64% of his throws his senior year in high school. Kyler Murray was at 64% as well. Bryce Young was at 72%. None of them averaged less than 9.7 yards per attempt, and both Murray and Young were over 10.8. The point isn't that Ayamaliva is going to be good or bad. It's the quarterback evaluation is about to get really, really important because those spots are going to occupy big-time NIL dollars. Clemson hit on Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson, and Trevor Lawrence, and Dabo Swinney won multiple championships. Jim Harbaugh has almost the same recruiting profile as Dabo at Michigan, but has been saddled with Jake Rudock, Wilton Speight, John O'Korn, Shea Patterson, Joe Milton, and Cade McNamara. Whether Ayamaliva ends up like Lawrence or Patterson is going to go a long way towards determining the future of the Vols. And if Brown turns into a star, the Gators are going to have a leg up in recruiting for years to come. So that's my take on NIL. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it. Again, if you'd like to support us, you can go to readandreaction.com/mag. That's MAG to sign up to get a coupon for 20% off the magazine we'll have coming out pretty soon. Certainly we're starting to get itched for the season. Fall camp's going to start in a few months. This will help get you prepared. And hopefully everybody enjoys that out there. Really, really appreciate all your support. Appreciate everybody reaching out to us. It's not easy breaking into this alternative media sphere. And so we very much appreciate all the support, all the kind comments, and sometimes even the negative comments, because that makes us better as well. So with that, I'll leave you until next time. Really, really appreciate your support, and go Gators.